Recorded Books Incorporated presents an unabridged recording of Mrs. Pollifax and the Lion Killer by Dorothy Gilman, narrated by Barbara Rosenblatt. This work, copyrighted 1996 by Dorothy Gilman Butters, is recorded by arrangement with Macintosh and Otis Incorporated. This recording is copyrighted 1996 by Recorded Books Incorporated. In this, the 12th in the Mrs. Pollifax series, the inimitable and irrepressible Emily P. finds herself on a return trip to Ubangiba. She's to accompany her young friend Katie, who's returning to her homeland to help a friend in need. For once, it's not a mission for the CIA. But knowing Mrs. Pollifax, it could easily turn out to be fraught with peril. And now, Mrs. Pollifax and the Lion Killer.
Chapter 1. "She mustn't go alone," Cyrus was saying. "Absolutely not. It could be dangerous for Katie. We both know that." Mrs. Pollifax looked at her husband, seated on the couch with his left leg heavily encased in plaster and propped on a stool, and she didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. "Cyrus, I can't possibly leave you and go with her," she told him. "Your cast won't be removed for 11 more days. You need help with your crutches. You can't drive. You can't manage cooking or shopping." "She mustn't go alone," he repeated firmly. "No matter what appeals have come from Ubangiba and young Samat, she mustn't go alone." Mrs. Pollifax acknowledged this with a sigh. "What's to be done, then? We've practically adopted Katie. Or did she adopt us?" she asked with a smile. "She's spent every weekend with us when not at art school, and of course I feel responsible. But who can go with her? She's like family." "Like Quicksilver," Cyrus said. "Eager, curious. Can't have any harm come to her. Those 3 men—" He didn't finish his sentence, but he didn't need to. Mrs. Pollifax had met Katie Hopkirk 8 months ago, literally in a closet, after which the 2 of them had spent an extraordinary week together that had ended with Carstairs of the CIA whisking them off to Africa, to the country of Ubangiba. It was a relationship that Mrs. Pollifax had assumed would end when she and Katie parted. But much to her delight, it had only begun. They had known Katie was an orphan, and why, but they'd been unprepared for the nightmares that had awakened them on a number of the weekends Katie spent with them. The whimpers, followed by the screams of, "No, no!" Katie had never cared to speak of what she'd seen that day, when her parents were executed at their mission station during one of Ubangiba's coups. But over the months of knowing her, and because of those restless sleeps, Mrs. Pollifax and Cyrus had managed to extract from her several small details. There had been 3 men, Katie had said reluctantly, not wanting to remember. She had been returning on foot to her father's clinic with a precious bag of salt when she'd heard loud voices, gunfire, and her father's nurse screaming. She'd stood behind a screen of bushes at the edge of the compound to see what was happening, and why Rakia was screaming. And there were 3 men, Katie had said again, tight-lipped. Cyrus had said, "And did the nurse, Rakia, know who they were?" Katie had shaken her head. "They caught and blindfolded her before... "Then did the 3 men see you?" Cyrus asked. Katie had only shrugged, saying, "Right away Rakia and Laraba hid me, and by night the arrangements had all been made to smuggle me out of Ubangiba." Now Katie had announced that she had to go back in response to Sammy's call for help. In April, on their brief visit to that country with Carstairs, she'd been safe enough. She'd been warmly welcomed by old friends. But she'd been well protected on that trip. Since then, knowing more, both Mrs. Pollifax and Cyrus had wondered if those 3 men had survived the brutal reign of President Simoko that had followed the coup. And, if they were still alive, what might happen when Katie returned again? Would they fear being recognized and identified by Katie, and find it expedient to silence her? Cyrus interrupted her troubled thoughts to say, "Mrs. Lupacek." Jolted, Mrs. Pollifax said, "What? Who?" "Mrs. Lupacek. Here last month when you had the flu. She could move in, take over." "But did you like her, Cyrus? You have to remember I had that horrendous temperature," she reminded him. "I was upset."
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.